Subedi is a celebrated writer and a speaker in both English and Nepali languages. He has over 24 books on different subjects, including English language teaching to his credit. Most of his plays are performed by strong theater groups in Nepal and abroad. Professor Subedi held offices in International Theatre Institute, Linguistic Society of Nepal, Literary Association of Nepal, and currently he is the Vice President of Nepal Folklore Society and a member of International Association of Theatre Critics. His essays and seminar papers are published in Nepal and outside. Professor Subedi has presented papers in seminars in countries Asia, Europe, Africa, and South America. Prof. Subedi is someone who always graces NELTA events with his thought-provoking presentation that has its own style of rhetorics. Now, without much ado, I would like to invite our guru, Professor Abhi Subedi, for his presentation. Abhi, sir.
Thank you, Professor Lakshman Gewali. The president of NELTA is Moti Kala Devan, Professor Jairaj Avasthi sir, Professor Dr. Govindarath Bhattarai sir, and office bearers, erstwhile presidents, and the participants from abroad, including Krashen, whose works I have been reading for a long time, even though I have not followed them afterwards. With the presence of all the chairpersons of different regional bodies of NELTA and everybody participating, I can see the number is very big, about 500 people who are participating in this webinar. The introduction about me I always find them daunting because this is such a seminar which is supposed to focus on the crisis, methods, and modalities of English language teaching at this time of COVID crisis, COVID-19. So this is a very challenging subject in its own right. I felt a unique challenge when I received the invitation of NELTA from its chairperson Motikala Subba Devan, and I could guess the nature of the challenge as it came from her, because who is an untiring worker even in time of lockdown, creating kind of interface among the different generations of teachers and teachers of different levels. I attended earlier 2 such webinars at her invitation. So this is my 3rd one actually, which is a massive one. But the problem that I'm going to address are too complex. And at the very beginning, I want to begin by confessing that I am not an expert on all these topics, subjects, to come up with very strong recommendations. As Professor Avasthi said, these are such hard times and where we don't see the prospects, very easy times ahead. It is very difficult to say what we are going to do and what our methodologies will be like. And then in the previous seminar that I participated in, one of the webinars, I presented on the theme of teaching at the time of the COVID-19, the pandemic times. And I published one article in the Kathmandu Post about that, which entitled The Guru Karma in Virtual Times, in which I have, probably some of you may have read
Sorry,
it.
excuse me, just a minute. Your voice is rather low. I don't know. Is there any way that you could?
Okay. Is that okay now?
Yeah, kind of, yes, yes, maybe, yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much for reminding me. And I published an article after attending the last seminar, webinar organized by NELTA, in which I wrote about the shift from the traditional methods to the very, very challenging contemporary methods of our contemporary times. And I've said in that article, presenting a short narrative of our familiar practice will be appropriate here. We started teaching with 2 most recognized tools, chalk and duster, a handy item that was used to erase the chalk marks on the blackboard. They had almost become iconic in quality and also metonymic when instead of saying, I am teaching, teacher said, I'm using chalk and duster. So the shift, the movement from the chalk and duster times to the uh, current times is a very, very fast and fast moving time, fast time. And the association with this very humble accoutrements that we utilize in the past, we should learn from that very experience. We cannot shift so easily from one stage to another. But now, facing the challenge today to adjust in the new situation and then develop the new methods of teaching and then address the question of value as well as methods, we have to we have never been any easier position before, difficult position. The journey from this nondescript, almost kind of a almost monastic practice to the present time has been very drastic. Though the practice has been very smooth, we have landed in such a time when we have to utilize the available gears to cope with the pandemic time. Pedagogy, educationists and senior media writers have also joined the bandwagon. They have also come up with the discussion. Some very important educational experts have been debating about the question of the means of available to the students all over the country, because English is a compulsory subject. The main question is it possible to make this techniques accessible to all the students in different parts of the country at this stage? These are some of the questions, and they have threatened, they have warned that the non-availability of these techniques may perhaps create a gulf between the haves and the have-nots, the richer and the poor people, and it will be the society will be polarized because of this non-availability of the facilities to teach English or any other forms of education in the country. Some people will have the access to this means and others not. So this will kind of polarize the society. There are a number of challenges, crises that are that we are facing today. And one of them, which is an immediate challenge, is the development and accessibility of the means and techniques of teaching the students through this virtual method and other kinds of devices. So this is one of the most important challenge that I have been addressing in my presentations. In this webinar, which is participated by the people of the SAARC countries as well, where we share a common experience about English language teaching, about methods, about making English compulsory in this region, and then what does it mean to make English compulsory, and what does that mean to us today? Teaching English as a compulsory subject has always been an easy expression, and we taught English through textbooks, through kind of certain devices that we developed. But saying that English is a compulsory subject, now it is a threatening, it is very daunting. It's a challenging subject. Teaching English as a compulsory subject means teaching English all over the country to students from different remote regions, students of different levels of education, and then making the techniques, technologies, if they are developed now or will be developed in the future, accessible to all. So this is a very important challenge, and those participants from the SAARC countries, I'm sure, will share our experience, and they are all struggling at this stage, that English is no longer limited to the classroom and is wisely used in different domains of use, makes it important for us to link our efforts to those of the others who use and need English at this stage. I want to quote the lines from the history of NELTA. History of NELTA, which shows how the English teacher and their organization, such as this, see their karma as linked to those of the others who make use of English. The opening lines of the first chapter of The history of NELTA says, I quote, Nepal, with its threshold of a new socio-political and cultural change, has entered into a world of thriving hopes and aspirations. The nation has now started mainstreaming its diversities through the process of reformation, renewal, and restructuring of the total system, including politics, civil administration, and academia. This is, I have cited this from the history of NELTA, published in, I think, 2019. So this citation, this quote here, um, shows the kind of diversity in our life and sees the role of English language teaching in that one. And regards English as an important instrument, important tool that is directly utilized by the different faculties, different agencies, and different educational system of the country. Not only that, the modern Nepali life has also been using English language equally effectively and efficiently. But now the present pandemic times has brought a big challenge here before us. Any discussions about the methods of teaching English in post-COVID times, um, any system including the is a very important uh, problem for us to consider. English outside the classroom also, therefore to take phenomena out wider use of English outside the classroom into consideration at this stage. So we are thinking once again how widely English is used in Nepal, out of consideration. Um, the any discussion about the phenomena of the wider use of English outside classroom into this system that will help us organize materials, motivate learners, and select texts for teaching English that will be taken seriously by both learners and teachers alike. So in the post-COVID times, the mere repetition of the earlier methodologies should be revised thoroughly. So the post-COVID times, in my thinking, will be will be different from the situation that was before the COVID time. It will have an impact. I would think that I want to make some confessions here, begin with some confessions. The letter that was sent to me said three things to me, to everyone, I guess. I want to make start by with confession. At this international conference, I participated by scholars from different countries like Nepal, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, China, Thailand, Malaysia, Japan. I have seen this in the brochure. Britain, USA, Hong Kong. The exchanges of views about teaching English during this period of the global pandemics has given the greatest priority. Never before in the history of English pedagogy had such global response to the methods and modes of English teaching in time of globally experienced difficulty been brought together as it is being brought together in this conference. So this conference is in that sense is very historical. We're meeting at this time of pandemics. We are talking together and nobody knows the mantra. There's no magic. Nobody can suggest the magic at this stage out. What would be the best method of teaching? We will listen various suggestions from the experts, experienced people, people who are technically savvy. People will come up with a suggestion, but we still don't know what will be the shape of English language teaching in the post-COVID times. That is a very important part. And then the important part is that among the three challenges, the first challenge that was sent to me to answer was that challenges I faced during COVID-19 in teaching and learning. That is the first challenge. The second one is what kind of strategies and opportunities would you like to recommend to cope with the educational situation in post-COVID-19 in Nepal? A very daunting question, very challenging question. I don't have easy answers. I must confess, I don't have easy answers. I'm not such an expert who can come up with some ideas and suggestions for that. But I have some ideas which I will put forward in the later part of my presentation. The third aspect um, given in that letter is English pedagogy. English, the third aspect links the challenge of English pedagogy to the broader context, which is finding ways of exploring opportunities and thinking about ways of coping with them by linking that to the broader situation of education in the post-COVID times. My options, only option will be very limited. I'm using my notes, which I have noted down here. Sorry about that. I will start by answering the first question. The first question, which is, what challenges did I face during COVID-19 in teaching and learning? As a teacher, teaching for nearly half a century and teaching at the tertiary level, now teaching English to the graduate students once a week at least, my challenges are mostly psychological. I'm talking about my personal experience as asked to me to explain in the later. Psychological and ideational, more than technological. My challenges were not technological, they were mostly psychological and ideational. I say psychological because shifting praxis, teaching praxis involves the tension. Changing methods in the new context involves tension, and it was also somehow ideational also, the karma, my teaching practice, because the interactions and seminars with students did have a direct relationship with the ideas. So I, as a teacher, probably I'm the wrong person to talk about these experiences of teaching language widely, extensively all over the country by all levels of students. So my experiences are only limited to the teaching of the at the graduate level students, and they are psychological and ideational. Psychological in the sense that the praxis of teaching have been a great shift from the ordinary, usual, familiar to the very challenging ones. And the other part is the kind of supervising students' work and so on. So my experience is not very useful to the teachers who are teaching at the college and school levels, not at all useful. So that's what I did. And then the uh, the second one, which is the strategies and opportunities that I developed. I have not developed very much important strategies and opportunities other than those which we have been repeating commonly. We all, it seems, appear to be repeating the strategies which are mostly kind of guessworks, and also plan and in the planning phase, and ideas which may work or may not work. This is the second very important uh, point that I just would like to explain here. But talking about this karma, perform for a long time, I feel as though I am entering an uncharted territory. Teaching English, entering into this field, English teaching, like feeling like uncharted territory. I feel I kind of very strange and even off guard sometimes. The main reason is that the overall disruption has put the application of the familiar methodologies under serious test. And I don't know what the experience of all the teachers are, how the teachers who are participating in this webinar are going to present their views, and not necessarily the same methodologies that they presented earlier. So the pandemic situation has more or less reduced our strategies, and then have created a sense of commonality. We all, it seems, appear to be using more or less the same strategies, relying on the technologies, using this method, virtual method, and developing lessons to which would be appropriate for this kind of teaching. So this is kind of a situation that we are now. So in this very important, challenging conference, this seminar that NELTA is organizing, I'm sure the teachers will have some concrete suggestions to make about the ways and methods of using this very technology. And the important phrase is the post-COVID times. The post-COVID times are such times that we can't see, perceive just now. There is only a matter of guesswork. It's a guesswork. We don't see the methods. We can come up with so many different methods, but they may not work. They may not work in the post-COVID time. So I have some ideas about that. Philosophically speaking, the ontology of English language teaching at this stage has opened to my thinking redefinition of both time and space. That is what is very important, philosophically speaking. The time and the both for the givers of lessons as well as the receivers of the English language lessons. The very ontology has opened another subject, which is justification and the validity of the methodologies. This is a very important question. The justification and the validity of the methodologies, and such as those espoused by ELT and TESOL. The question, this is time of questioning all those methods and revising the methods. Can we successfully use all the methods that we have learned and promoted and disseminated, like those used by the ELT and TESOL system of teaching of English? And then this important consideration has brought us face to face with the reality. The face to face with the reality. Space and time have gone out of steps. Time has become flexible. We can teach through this medium. Time is fluid, but spaces have become too many multiple spaces. While I was teaching on this, through this virtual method, I can see students in their domestic atmosphere, domestic environments, managing their household chores and sending children to play outside in the open. And this kind of a bringing back together the domesticity and the time is a philosophically very interesting challenge in English language teaching, as well as the teaching of all kinds of subjects in Nepal. The management of the most challenging aspects for us today are the management of time and the space. Spaces have become multiple. Even now, so many people are sitting in so many multiple spaces, and the times are quite fluid. We can at least organize the time. Spaces are multiple, and those factors have always influenced our teaching method. And English language teaching in the post-COVID times too will be affected by this multiplicity of spaces. If fortunately the COVID, we find a cure for the coronavirus, the situation might continue for some time, and the situation will not be the same. In such situation, I think has to be part of the entire effort. Learning of language in our case has become a negotiation, has always been a negotiation, a skillful management, always. Now it will, in post-COVID teachings, post-COVID times, it will be even more challenging. The management of time and space, academic sessions have been disrupted, as Professor Avasthi already said very nicely. Children of the remote regions and their teachers have lost contact. Re-establishing this contact has become the first requirement of English language teaching. Now the debate is focused on how we should do it. Some schools and higher level institutions have been utilizing this probably technique, been using the means since before the COVID-19, and they are using them. Some of them are using remote learning. Some schools have been using the technologies before also, and now I guess they are learning. But what is seen very commonly is that they have not been able to open their institutions. So they are shut. They are not been able to open because of the threat of the coronavirus. They are shut. They are not open. So we are talking in a situation where the institutions where English is taught are not open. We are talking in this situation when we don't know when the students will come to a certain position to receive the lessons, when the teachers will be in a position to give the lessons. So our strategies as English teachers are not very different from those of the teachers of other subjects and other who are tackling the situation. At such times, we have to evoke the action of the government. We have to look at the government to see what is up their sleeves. Like the government of Nepal has a familiar terminology called alternative education system. This is said by the government, which is related to the department, is mainly developed for the school level education. Is that applicable to us also or not at the tertiary level, school level education? The challenges they have to address is making the means available to all schools. That is what the government has been saying all over the country. I was reading about these options they have of remote learning. They have said they will experiment with all kinds of available technologies. I quote, from the famous and the most accessible radios, and in some, or perhaps in many places now, the television. But making even those means available to students learning English in the remote regions and the geographically challenging location is not an easy task. So as something that we should articulate at this NELTA conference, which is a conference of English teachers participated by 500 English teachers. This problem should be articulated. This problem should be raised once again. So that means one factor of this post-COVID teaching time will that this situation is going to make us dependent on a certain factors. First, it will make us dependent on those who can promote the technologies, provide the technologies to the schools and college levels. That is one dependency, which means that will be the government who has the resources, who can manage the resources, who can spend money to get those resources. That is one very important dependency. The other dependency is the kind of a dependency from the people who can access to that. Do people have the access, equal, easy access to all this means or not? And so towards the end of the paper, I just want to, I have some ideas about how we could manage and organize English language teaching in the post-COVID situation. The South Asian countries, for that matter, English language is very important there. We're talking about English language teaching. English language is always with, what is this English language then? The English language, we taught English language during the colonial times. We taught English language in very easy times. We taught English language without much knowing what the teachers were doing in the rural areas. They taught English language. English language was taught with very bad text, and English was taught in a very bad manner, in some very efficient manner. The reason is that the position, status of English has always been very, very important and very hallowed position in South Asia. The legacy of English language teaching as a compulsory subject at all levels of the curricula had never faced this question before. So since the colonial times down to this present day, perhaps this is for the first time that the English teachers have been facing this kind of question. So my question is this situation going to make us make great adjustment in terms of the methods, for example, techniques, for example, and technologies, and making those technologies and the text available to all the students? This is the daunting task. So at this stage, I cannot afford to develop the methodologies, technique, how to present oneself in the classroom, and how to do the lesson planning. No, I don't see much validity in that at this stage talk. We want to talk about the situation, the conditionality, the question, how to make the means and methods of English language teaching in all regions and conditions available is the first challenge. The familiar topic is, at this time, English post-COVID times, is reminiscent of the culture and conditions of postality, post-COVID situation. Now we are talking a lot of postality, post-democracy, post-history, post-truth also now, post-politics. So we are living in an age of postality. I hope English will not be affected by this culture of postality. Like saying post-politics means not doing politics. Post-politics is no politics. Post-truth is no truth at all. So what is this post-COVID English teaching? Will there be an English teaching with us? Where also that seems moving towards the age of postality. Everything is post-COVID. COVID is a very important mark. It has its effect, very shattering effect. Anything that we'll do after this will be post-COVID teaching, and experts will come up with some ideas, methods as before, and the Nepali English teachers, those who are participating in this also, as I can see from the NELTA publications and from listening to the papers and presentations of professors and English teachers, that I'm very hopeful, optimistic, some method, some system will be developed in the future, in the post-COVID times, is that is reminiscent of this postality, as I said, this kind of a oxymoronic expression. The oxymoronic use of the terms today perhaps signals the starting of a culture of doing nothing by breaking tradition of hallowed values. So this is, but our post-COVID English language teaching will not be such value-free teaching. It will have significance, importance, value, and also a continuation of the tradition of English teaching in this region, in Nepal, as well as in South Asia, and everywhere else. We are English teachers. The greatest anxiety of English teachers is not to dismantle. They don't want to show the dismantling of the methodologies. The most important challenge now is to see whether all the hallowed methods, the system as explained, espoused by NELTA or the TESOL or our own Nepali professors' methods, are they going to be dismantled, or will there be readjustment? Are the methods that we have been using, that we have developed all over the world in seminars and webinars, and also in classrooms and outside seminars, are they going to work? Our anxiety is, are those values, are those systems going to be dismantled? Will you have to dismantle them, or put them together, regroup them, and revamp them, and then make them very effective once again? This is the main question at the moment. The praxis of English teaching here, this is the shared in Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, everywhere these practices are shared. So it is very important occasion, this NELTA conference, to listen to the teachers from these countries, the participants from these countries, what their experiences are. Countries, the whole region is badly affected. The teaching is affected. The schools are closed, and then there are casualties every day. And so in such situation, how do we save not only English teaching, but also the education itself is a question. But do we specific, since we are English teachers and NELTA is here to promote ways, find out ways of developing methodologies of teaching English effectively is here. So we have to come up with some ideas. English is an important means of education, and we all in South Asia agreed that English could open important avenues of education in the field of science, humanities, and the social sciences. And with each crisis, each political upheaval, and each regional tension, whether that is caused by political differences or the cartographic disputes about the borders, and with each achievement made by the media, all forms of English language has continued to play important role. There is one important thing I just would like to think, is that this, in the post-COVID situation, there will be greater use of English language than even before. Because to cope with this challenge, this global challenge, this is a unique, uncanny kind of a globalization of the experience, globalization of the pandemic. In this very uncanny kind of globalization, we will need more communicative needs for communication with the world. The use of English language will be felt even more strongly than before in the post-COVID times, post-COVID-19 times. So that we can see that quite clearly. We need that language. But by using, we are the educationists, we are teachers. So how can we make the best use of that need of the English language into the classroom? How can we bring that into the classroom? The standard of English itself has changed over the decades, and several Englishes have come in the region, especially in the South Asian region. We should be very realistic about this fact that English language is not as a monolithic standard anymore, that we have been discussing for over the last several years, that many regional Englishes have developed. Will those Englishes be effective, useful in the post-COVID English teaching times or not? But the Englishes, for example, which are united, all these Englishes have been united by the grammar of English, because English is a very grammar savvy language. There are so many Englishes all over the world, and it is written by a grammarian, British linguist earlier, that the important factor that unites all these Englishes in the world is the English grammar, the standard English grammar. All our methods and exercises under different names of English language, with different pronunciations, different experiences, as we see in this very NELTA conference also. We don't speak the English language in the same way. We have our own pronunciation, we have our use of methods of using English, and so on. So this is an indication of the fact that there are Englishes, regional Englishes have evolved. And in the pandemic times, the use of the Englishes will be easier to use in the region, in the education tomorrow, to address to a larger audience. Certain forms of standard of English should be selected. They will be automatically selected. I want to mention, while the role of grammar is very important, and one man who, he's a scholar, English language scholar, named Braj Kachru. I just want to refer to the history of English language studies. Braj Kachru has said these very important things. He has written about the ontology of the Indian variety of English in 1983. He published a small book. And Kachru says, in yet another book, he says, I quote, Asian presence of English, domains of functions, the albatross of mythology, which I like this very much. Albatross, the mythology that we're hanging around our neck, like the ancient mariner in Coleridge's poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, the albatross of mythology and the Asian context, decolonizing context, canonicity, diversity, and Asian English, as he says. English on the Asian terms, he says. English on the Asian terms and institutionalization of Asian Englishes. These are the two terms he was struggling with. In English in Asian terms, which is a kind of a language which he has used here, is that he wants to get the recognition, get the Asian English recognized as a form of English, and he says institutionalization of Asian Englishes. So my question comes to my mind now is, are we going to use and change the selection of the English variety, regional varieties in the post-COVID English language situation times or not? Will there be regional varieties come up more strongly in the post-COVID English language teaching situation or not, which will be forced by the regional needs, communicative needs, and the students and learners and teachers' needs of the choice of a particular type of English? And is that going to influence English language teaching and the selection of the texts, selection of the methods, and or not? These are some of the questions. I don't have answers to them, but they have come up as a question to me. I must confess the grammar, use of grammar is a very important factor. When I came out of the University of Edinburgh after I thought learning fully equipped with the accoutrement training about English language teaching and so on and so forth, I came with two things. I came up with that training I thought which I had received and then which I could use very productively when I returned. And also I had one with me as a kind of a mantra, a huge grammar of written by several British grammarians actually. I came with those things, and when I returned here and I was given the responsibility to chair a department and also to become chairman of the syllabus committees and then material production committees and so on and so forth. But gradually I realized that those techniques were not very effective. And that was not only my experience, that was the experience of many other English language teachers. The trainings they had received, we had received, because I'm very confessional, I just want to confess. And I'm saying this because I'm confessing. There are those trainings which we received, others also said the same thing, received did not work very effectively. So we had to devise our own methods, system of English language teaching, which I have been saying repeatedly. And the best method that came up with us, the best method was the method developed by the student learners and the teachers, which I would like to call the heuristic method. We should use the skills and suggestions and methods used by very famous innovators like Professor Krashen, who is here participating. I've read him a lot. I like his methods very much, and others. So we should use all these methods, but at the end, we should develop the lessons which could be effective and accessible to students and recognized by students at this level, without making them too formal, without kind of a putting them into a kind of a pattern of English, ELT pattern, or the pattern of English language teaching and so on. My suggestion is that in the post-COVID times, the method of English language teaching should be simplified. That's one suggestion I just would like to make. It should be simplified. The method should be simplified. And it should be kind of a, student and teachers should not be burdened with the methodology, the methods only. Too many methods, too many schools. We should not burden them with the methods. We should simplify the methods. The methods should be very minimum. The rules should be very minimum. And as one, I was reading one very important article written by A. Zhao of Oklahoma University, Department of TESOL. He sums up his findings of the research about learner perception of grammar learning. He says this, quote, teachers need to make pedagogically sound choices in terms of what aspects of grammar and types of vocabulary to teach in writing classrooms, and so in a manner that is efficient and effective by capitalizing on students' need and motivation to maximize learning. So I'm not advocating the use of return of grammar-based teaching. I'm not saying that. But what Zhao and others also have been saying is that the use of grammar in terms of producing a kind of a recognizable material, usable material by students and teachers should not be overlooked. But then I would stress again, the method in the post-COVID English language teaching should be simplified. It should not be too much burdened with the rules. It should be kind of a very, I would call this heuristic method, a method developed by both learners and the teachers. This such method, we have to deal with English teaching directly in post-COVID times. We should not go through the kind of the paraphernalia of rules and texts and theories. My theory is that, my principle is that, my idea is that we should deal English language teaching directly in the post-COVID times and we should return to the text or textbooks. I may sound conservative here because the COVID situation has taught us that a certain material which is accessible, which can be usable, can be utilized even in the remote corners, remote places, in all places, should be handy with us. The students should be able to carry something with them and refer to that. And those are the textbooks. The textbooks, the materials, e.g. materials, the materials which have the kind of very nicely developed exercises with them. Such textbooks should not be banned or stopped. They should be promoted. So that is my idea. The next idea.
Sir, excuse me. It's going so well, but I just would like to remind you that you have 5 minutes to conclude.
Okay, I'll complete.
No, 5 minutes you have. Go ahead. Yeah.
I can see 15
Yes.
minutes. Okay. With this English teaching directly in the post-COVID time and South Asian, I just would like to cut that out. And other point that suggests that I have is that in the post-COVID times, we should continue to make the methods used during the COVID times. We should not break with the COVID times because we have gained tremendous experience in the COVID times. So those methods should be utilized in the post-COVID teaching also. We should not say that now we are in a post-COVID situation. Anything that we did while we were under the lockdown, those methods are not used. Those methods are useless. We should not say that. During this lockdown period, we have learned a lot. Teachers have developed a number of methods. Those methods should be continued. That is one point. The other point I would like to say quickly is that the post-COVID times, the methods, materials should be, they should be reduced to make teaching and learning process effective. And my opinion is that we should bring in the books. Books, I stress, a tendency to get carried away by the new techniques and so on, that is also dangerous. We should put a halt on that enthusiasm about these techniques and so on. That will have two problems. One problem is that the students of the remote regions will not have access to them. Let us use as much as it's possible those methods and also make them accessible to the students who are in the remote regions also by using whatever techniques is available. But use the textbooks, written, redefine, and then reframe textbooks. But they should be available. The government, the ministry doesn't make even those books available. Students going without textbooks. And in 3 minutes, I just want to finish and should made those that ELT and TESOL practice. I'm sure after the pandemic times will be revised, and the scholars who are going to address this meeting afterwards will come up with some ideas maybe. This is worth listening to their suggestions because they have done a lot of work, and then our own professors, the experts, NELTA teachers who are experts will also come up with suggestions. And finally, the post-COVID-19 teaching will see the emergence of a heuristic method of teaching and learning based on the continuous discovery procedure. I call this the continuous discovery procedure. So the post-COVID teaching will be a teaching of the discovery and then creative teaching. It will replace the rigorous practice and narrow the gap between the teachers and the learners. As the education will be linked to institutional initiatives, English teaching too will have to adjust in the new environment of sharing and innovations. The post-COVID English teaching will see greater innovations, experiments, and creative challenges. We should be prepared for that. We should be open for that. Thank you very much.